always that moment of anticipation. Okay, good evening, guys. We're live again on Bellevue TV. And today I'm very, very excited to welcome back Alexis Dixon as my co-host.
Hello, guys.
And wow, Joel and Sandi Anderson, it is so amazing to have you here. I know we're in quarantine and it's been a trying week for a lot of us, but we've made it thus far. And it is going to be an exciting journey tonight as we learn about this dynamic duo. So Joel and Sandi, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Amanda.
Thank you, Amanda and Alexis, for having us this evening. We're very happy to be with you guys, all the way from Fallbrook.
All the way from Fallbrook. And I just wanted to start out by mentioning, as I was trying to prepare for today, I was running, and I saw one of these amazing videos that Joel did, and it really just laid out everything he's doing. It says, "Hi, I'm Joel Anderson. I'm an artist, an author, an international speaker, an ambassador, a philanthropist." So I think to say that Joel is simply an artist, a painter, is not enough. And we're going to learn today about all the amazing projects he has going on, not only in Fallbrook, but around the globe. So I'm going to turn it over to Alexis. Let's get started. Yeah. It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. You know, Sandi, Amanda just named only a few things that Joel does. And one of the things that impressed me, because I saw the video today as well, is oftentimes when we think of autism, we seem to have a very narrow definition of what this means. And Amanda named filmmaker, artist, philanthropist, documentarian. I mean, this guy, I'm jealous. I don't have a schedule like Joe. Can you talk about what it's like to not only have a child with autism, but live with a child like Joe, who is so multi-talented and multifaceted? What's that experience like?
It's amazing. Sometimes it's hard. And the first thing someone with autism on the autism spectrum will tell you is when you meet one person with autism, you've met one person with autism. And just like people, no two people are alike. And it's the same for everyone on the autism spectrum. It is a spectrum disorder. And so some of our people with autism are incredible artists. Some are incredible mathematicians. Some, all they can do for you is smile. Joel has an older brother, Jared, who's nonverbal and more severely impacted with autism. And he's a joy just being around him. You know, he doesn't talk and doesn't do other things like that and needs full care, but he has something to give too. So it is an exciting journey. It's been, there's ups and downs, there's tears galore, there's griefs, there's victories and celebrations. And so we take it, you know, one day at a time, a few days at a time. If a door opens, we walk through it if it's appropriate. So we just never know what's going to happen. So.
What's the point of discovery of Joe's talent? At what point did you recognize? And you, Joe, maybe you can answer that also.
Well,
how old?
An artist called the artist of smiles. That's why I had make my art to make people smile.
Mm-hmm. And when did you start drawing?
I started drawing when I was 5 and painting since I was 11.
Mm-hmm.
And I heard something about Mona Lisa in your early years.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about you and Mona Lisa? What happened? How did you discover Mona Lisa and what happened with that?
Well, I was painting from books, when I see pictures from books and from movies, from anything I see.
You love history too.
That's right, I do.
Yeah, we do a lot of history. Part of Joel's schooling journey, it was kind of all over the place, but part of the time I homeschooled him. And when we realized what a passion he had for history and the arts and different things, it was just like, okay, we could teach this through art. So we can teach math through art. We can teach history through art. And what a novel concept, right? If you find somebody, this is your passion and this is your giftedness, do all your other skills, right? Even our social skills through art. music. And I always exposed him to the classics, Beethoven, Bach, who's behind us. He has a big love for classical music, and we'll tell you more about working with mainly Mozart. And just all the painters that you love. Who's like your favorite painters that you like?
Leonardo da Vinci, Picasso, Van Gogh.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I noticed the colors in your paintings are so vibrant. And I know one of the things with autistic children is there's a hyper, what do you want to call it? A hypersensitivity to sound and touch and all that.
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us why you choose the colors you choose for your paintings, Joel? Because they're so beautiful and they're so vibrant. How do you choose the colors that you choose? Do you have a particular reason that you choose these colors and has such vibrant work?
That's a good question. You tell me, please.
Well, I think a good way Joel could sum it up is, what year did you write that poem? Colors of My Mind.
Colors of My Mind, that was 2008.
In 2008. So he kind of put it into words because he has gotten asked that question before. And as you look at his website, you'll see his favorite colors because that's who he is. So he, created his own website with using his favorite colors. But he painted well, first you did the poem and then you did the painting, right?
Yes, that's right.
So would you like him to recite the poem that explains the colors of my mind? That's the title of it.
That would be wonderful.
And Joel, do you have a particular image you'd like us to put on the screen while you're reciting the poem?
You can find one yourself.
Oh, pick your favorite one.
Deal. Okay. I like that, Joel. Okay.
All right.
My Colors of My Mind by Joel Anderson. I paint in colors of the rainbow, and I see yellow of the sun and blue in the sky. I know you feel fine and smile when you see the colors of my mind. I see joy in green, courage in blue, strength in red, love in yellow too, the colors of my mind. I draw pictures of history. I see landscapes of adventure, characters of mystery. I know you feel fine and smile when you see the colors of my mind. And when I paint, I feel peace. I can face the world with ease. I see the world around of artistry, displaying creativity. I travel to get this inspiration, to have another look at the colors of my mind. Thank you.
That's beautiful. That's stunning. That's stunning. How old were you when you wrote that?
I was 17 or 18 or something.
That really speaks to your work so beautifully. Sandi, what does it take to cultivate this? I think Joel painted as young as 3, maybe 5 years old. What's it required to cultivate this kind of artistic brilliance that he displays?
Well, I think when he was 5 and we first started noticing he doesn't draw like other little kids his age. So
excuse me, did you draw the Mona Lisa at 5 or something?
No, that was at 11. He drew at 5 and he didn't start painting till he was 11.
I painted Mona Lisa when I was dressed up as Leonardo da Vinci and painting her at the same time. The same way Leonardo did.
I'm going to try that. I'm going to give that a try after the show and see how I do.
Yeah. So when, I started noticing, wow, he doesn't draw like other little kids. And so I had heard of Dr. Bernard Rimland, and his son, Mark Rimland, is an amazing artist. And so I decided, well, because back in the day, back when Joel was little, it was before internet. He's almost 30 this summer. So, this is pre-internet and all those things that we can research and do, just starting to come out, with computers. And so I got in the phone book and looked up Dr. Rimland's foundation and called, and he answered the phone, and I was stunned. And I'm like, I think my son, might be gifted in art. I don't know. And he's like, yeah. Thinking, I'm thinking a lot of moms probably call and say, oh, my son's gifted, And so he said, send me some pictures. So we scanned some pictures and sent them down to him in the mail. And, he calls me and he's like, yes. And he says, I would love to introduce to you Mark Rimland's teacher, Kathy Blavitt. Mm-hmm. And so we would drive down to San Diego and meet with Kathy. And
Ray Blavitt.
And Ray Blavitt. And Ray is Kathy's husband, and Ray is an animator. And so Joel really fell in love with animation. So he started working with Ray. So you were pretty young when you started animating.
That's right.
And so it was just a matter of having materials around and opportunities. And we were going through a lot of paper, reams of paper when he was little. And so I'm going, well, this isn't good. So it was like the first time we could get something like on when we first got our first computer and KidPix. I was trying to think of that today. What was the first computer program that he used? It was KidPix to draw.
Uncle Ricky gave it to me.
Uncle Rick gave it to you. That's right.
Because he worked with Apple.
That's right. He did back in the day, didn't he? Yeah. So that then, really got him then drawing on the computer, and, we haven't stopped since. So it's just kind of whatever he feels he's into, if it's working with clay or paint or
so many different types of mediums. Joel, I know sometimes I know I could get a little obsessed in one area and then another. How do you get fixated or like locked into a certain subject? For instance, like you do animation and then you go and you dive deep into animation. And then I know you were doing animals for a while, and I could put some of those up on the screen. Do you feel like you focus on one subject and you
at a time?
At a time?
Yes.
Okay. So what is I'm going to pull up on the screen some of your artwork, because I know you have the animals and then you have the history figures. Another one of my favorite one is the eyes that you've done. Can you tell us what you're working on lately right now? Maybe especially while we're all stuck at home in quarantine?
What are we working on right now? What are you working on right now? Or what did you just finish? Actually, probably the biggest one that he just finished is Bach. That's over here behind us.
Okay. I'm going to do a quick screen share.
And next to him is Temple Grandin. See her?
And who is that?
Temple Grandin.
Dr. Temple Grandin. Yeah.
Anyway.
Do you want to fill in for those that are watching that aren't familiar with who that is?
Who Dr. Grandin is?
Dr. Temple Grandin is a professor and an advocate for revolutionizing the meat plant industry.
But she's also, what else does she speak
Cattle
about?
whisperer?
Yes, she is, but she's also on the autism spectrum.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah. So she's an international speaker and a mentor, and has become an encourager to Joel. And last year he had the honor at mainly Mozart Music in the Mind to paint Dr. Grandin live on stage.
Wow. Okay. Well, they're frozen.
Listen for a moment, yeah.
Well, Sandy's
Let me
frozen.
show some of this.
I'm going to show some of the artwork that we have. So let me head to my trusty desktop and bear with me. Some of the artwork that he's done is, well, all of the artwork he's done obviously is absolutely amazing.
Okay, sorry.
So you're back. This happens. We're live at Zoom. So I was just popping over to show some of the different themes or subjects that Joel works on. And like we were talking about before we hopped on the call, the colors are just extraordinary. And for a lot of people, art is subjective. And I know for myself, two things that really speak to me are color and movement, right? And so I think Joel's just mastered both. So here's, if you go to his website, here are some of his pieces and some of my favorites. I mean, it's hard. Like, let me stroll you through my favorites, but we'll get a bit of a closer look of his pieces. And so this is the one you were speaking of, correct, Joel? Temple Grandin?
One of the things as I'm looking at this, Joel, is not only how beautiful the colors are, but just how much emotion is in the eyes of the people and the animals that you show. How do you paint the eyes? What is your technique for painting eyes?
Is it through that's a good question. Can you help me out here?
What is Your teacher.
Oh, Richard Sturgles.
Mm-hmm. And how is he teaching you to paint eyes?
He's painterly.
Mm-hmm. So Joel works with several different mentors, and Richard, who he's talking about, is an amazing portrait painter. Amazing, 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 hands-on. Yeah, check out Richard Sturgles. And so we realized that for Joel, the best way to learn is to watch somebody do it correctly the first time. Instead of doing it and having a miss and then having somebody come and say, that isn't right, start over. Of course, you still want to be able to keep the artist's own style. You don't want to, take somebody's style away. But so Richard will paint on a canvas and Joel will paint on his own canvas, and then he watches Richard paint. And so that gives Joel's paintings never look exactly like Richard's. It's still Joel's style looks like Joel's, but he's learning the techniques of how to get the eyes.
Yeah, and so go ahead. Sorry, please continue.
Oh, that's okay. His mentor, international artist Julianne Johnson, who we met probably about 5 years ago now. That was the one thing that she really wanted. She says, Joel, go for the eyes, learn how to do the eyes. And but if you think of a person with autism, that is the hardest thing for somebody to do. For a lot of people with autism is to look into somebody's eyes, because your eyes is your window to your soul. And so it's very deep. There's a lot of emotion. Used to people would think, oh, they just can't, they're just not social. They don't want to look at you. That's not it at all. It's they feel so much that it's hard. It's hard to look somebody in the eyes for a long time. Try it. We kind of do, but we're glancing around. But for them, it's easier to look. Joel will kind of look off of somebody's shoulder versus right at their eyes.
Sandi, I have to say my, the best moment for me was when Joel made eye contact with me, and that took years. So I completely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, he works really hard at it. And
even looking,
painting upside down.
Painting upside down can help improve painting people from real life photos.
How so, Joel? How does you paint them upside down?
Yes.
Why did you paint President Lincoln upside down?
Because I could see the different colors on the skin tones.
Yeah. So when you're painting a person, you want to look in their eyes, right? So if you paint upside down, he says he's painting shape, color, shadow, the tones, and not being distracted by the eyes. And then at the end, he'd flip it over and paint the eyes in.
It's interesting because when I look at his paintings, I just don't feel, there's this feeling as if he is actually painting from inside the person, or painting from the psychology. Amanda had a cat, an animated cat painting, and the eyes of the cat, but it wasn't just the eyes. It's as if Joel kind of seeps into the soul of the person and then paints from there. There's so much emotion emanating from it that he's capturing something there that's beyond what we're seeing. What is Joel's learning style, Sandi? How does he learn? Is it totally photographic memory? What's his learning style? And how does he retain what he has learned?
Very kinesthetic. Like I said, when I taught, I had some training from a doctor on the East Coast that taught me how to adapt curriculum and work with different learning styles for students, because some kids are auditory learners, some are visual learners, some are hands-on learners. And for Joel, it's a mixture of everything. And then it gets in the brain better anyways, because you're putting it in through all the different modalities, and it can get in. He's a really good speller. And when he was still in school, in a classroom in 3rd grade, and did the spelling bee, you were in the spelling bee, because you could memorize the words. And then you also learned your times tables faster than everybody in the classroom, because it was memorizing your times tables, you memorize them. So that was pretty fun, huh? Yeah.
Can you talk about Autism Tree and your relationship with them, and how they have been supportive of you and
Definitely.
Joel's journey.
I started volunteering with Autism Tree Project when I turned 13. First of all, I painted a picture of a San Diego Chargers football player, Doug Flutie, for the very first Autism Tree Project Foundation fundraiser party, Monday Night Football. That's when I got to first met Dana Hoff and her husband Todd and their toddler son Garrett.
What was the very first thing you did with Dana?
We spoke on the news.
You spoke on the news.
Wow. Wow.
And what was the story? The story was what? What did you talk about?
Autism Tree Project will start raising money to make for free screening for children with autism, whether they do or not.
So you were there advocating for them and starting your journey as being a spokesperson and an ambassador for autism awareness. Last night we spoke, and I do want to get back to the paintings with the eyes because I think they're just beautiful. Last night when we were talking about that this just happens to coincide. It is, Joel, Autism Awareness Month. And when we were talking last night, your mom was saying, well, why do we call it Autism Awareness Month? Why don't we call it Autism Inclusion Month? And I think what you do traveling the world, and we haven't even touched on where you've been, all the different countries you've been to, but what you're doing to help families that have kids with special needs feel more comfortable, and also others that don't have exposure to these types of families. You're just doing so much amazing work on a global scale, not just in San Diego, but around the world, speaking to kids and families and letting them know that we need to not only be aware, but we need to be loving and inclusive. Can you talk about the places you've been, and also maybe a little bit about your book that talks about inclusion?
Oh,
You have it right there. You're so awesome, Joel.
right. Medieval Trio Tales, Courage to the Concert. I wrote and illustrated it.
How old were you when you first wrote it?
I was 14 when I drew the characters.
My goodness.
Yeah.
Can you tell us who the characters are and what they represent?
Yeah. This is Remus the Minstrel. He was my main character. This is Lady Linda. And this is her brother, Sir Simon the Knight. This is the bad guy, Buster the Blacksmith. And the guy in the back of the page is the town crier. That's me, because I wrote and illustrated the story.
And what's the story about? What is the story teaching children?
How to be a friend and to not be a bully.
I read that Martin Luther King was one of your heroes. Can you talk about that? What did you learn from Martin Luther King? Civil rights and civil human rights, no matter what color they are, no matter where they're from.
Do you remember how old were you when you said, Mom, I want to be like Dr. Martin Luther King?
I was 16 years old.
Yeah, and what did you tell me?
Want to speak to schools and end segregation of children with special needs at schools.
Yeah, I couldn't have been prouder. I thought, wow, he wants to go speak to schools. I'm like,
and I was nervous when there were some with
your first
mild disabilities.
Yeah, but your first group of kids was like 1,000 kids out on the playground at Richland Elementary, and it was just like a 10-minute, introduction about autism and art. We had all his art, and the kids loved it. And then that's when you started speaking with Autism Tree Project Foundation. And one of the reasons we love Autism Tree Project Foundation so much is not only they're our family tree, they're our autism tree, they're our family tree, because they are the example of inclusion in a foundation. And I work with a lot of foundations over the years, and I'm very picky about who I spend my time with. And Autism Tree has been this example of raising our families of feeling loved and supported. And if one of our young people with autism want to start their own program or something, if I go and ask Dana, and Dana's like, sure, well, let's help you do it, you know? And so Garrett's grown up in the foundation, and for a long time he was just growing up, and then when his heart was ready that he's, hey, I want to start pouring more into the foundation, when he was a little guy.
Oh, we lost her again.
She'll be back. I love the conversation of inclusion, and I love her reframe of that. But I'm also impressed that at 16 he went to his mother and said, "Mom, I want to be like Martin Luther King Jr." And I mean, the pure courage that he displays, the pure sense of, I'm going to live my life to the fullest, is really a model for everyone. Hi there. We were just saying that. Please continue with what you were saying.
Yeah, just that it's a model of including, you know, because often you do see a lot of foundations. It's about autism, or it's about arthritis, or it's about, take your pick. And are those people that have those syndromes or whatever a part of the foundation? And often they're not. It might be a parent, which is fine. It might be a grandparent or somebody in the know, but do you have board members with autism on your foundation? Do you have people that you're hiring and letting volunteer, and taking? Dana and Todd took Joel to so many places speaking, and Dana's just like his amazing marketing heart. She loves him as her own, and she's always sharing his book and giving his book, and the book is dedicated to Dana and the Autism Tree because of their heart. And it's just amazing. We wouldn't be where we are today without all our friends like Dana and so many. We work with Miracle 139 International. We went to Peru with them, Johnny and Friends International. We've been to China. These foundations that it's all about inclusion. It's together, it's a family, and letting them share their voice.
I also know that Joel has some relationships with Apple and other corporations. Can you talk about what Joel is lending to those major multinational corporations?
Well, can you tell about the Art of Autism and the Apple iPad project?
It's through Art of Autism. Deborah Musicard recommended it. So she gave me an iPad.
Apple did. Yeah. So the Art of Autism is an amazing foundation. They help artists all over the world to showcasing their art, and they write blogs, and just amazing opportunities come through them, and she'll post them, and it might be an art show, or maybe somebody's looking for an artist, or and then they worked out, I don't actually really know how it started, but this event with Apple, and Apple wanting to give an opportunity to give an iPad with the new pen, and would it help artists on the spectrum be able to learn new types of art. And so the first year they gave 10 iPads, and Joel was a part of that first program, and it really did. It opened a whole new world, and he uses it now for storyboarding and video production and filming and illustrating and all kinds of different things. And so they have a new group this year that they gave 14 artists, and that the online gallery is on the Art of Autism on Facebook right now. And you can see all those amazing artists, and that collaboration with Apple was amazing, because they called and said, what's your local Apple store? We'll get you hooked up. You can go meet, some of the creatives there and work with them. And they mentored him on how to use it. And wow, it was awesome. There's a day it goes by that you don't use that, right? Your iPad?
Yes.
Yeah, I use it all the time.
Joel, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to pull up a visual, and I wanted to see, because we're talking about, I just want to jump back to the places you've been around the world. And, when you were listing off all the projects, you mentioned Peru. So I think I have a visual on the website about you in Peru. And what were you doing here, Joel? Who were you with? And
I was with Miracle 139 International.
Okay, and what were you speaking about?
Ability awareness, my journey through the autism spectrum.
And what are some other countries that you've been to?
I've been to Peru, China, Japan, and Canada.
And Joel, how did you get to these countries? Did they invite you, or how did this happen? Did you wake up and just open the post and you have an invitation to go to China? What was the process?
First of all, I asked Mom I want to help kids with special needs all over the world.
Mm-hmm. And then from there, how did you end up going to China? Once you made that decision, and that's what's so amazing about Joel, right? He makes a decision and then he goes for it.
Yeah,
I think he froze, so we have a cliffhanger right now.
yeah.
And we're gonna get the story of how he ended up speaking in China.
I'm just inspired by him. I mean, I'm talking to someone who is on a spectrum of autism, and as he speaks, it dispels every myth. I mean, I'd really like to hear them talk about the myths they still have to dispel and the prejudices they still encounter. But Joe, I think, yeah, you were speaking about your world travel. How did you start thinking about world travel and being part of a global citizen?
I had world travel when I was about 6.
When you were 6, well, we went to Montana. I guess that was probably a big world when we went to Montana. But your heart was about for what country first?
China?
China, yeah. China.
And how did you like China?
The cultures and the buildings
Mhm.
and the history.
And you studied Mandarin, didn't you?
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
Can you say anything in Chinese? Can you offer us a little bit of Chinese? Do you remember any of it at all?
It's been a while. Can you remember? Oh, it's been a while. I will tell you a funny story while he's yawning.
Like, didn't he do something on the plane to China, if I remember correctly?
Did he do something on the plane?
Didn't you tell him, like, learn Chinese? Or maybe I'm making that up.
I don't know. We were in a taxi when we first got to China. Well, many times we were always in a taxi in China. And he started talking to the taxi cab driver, and the taxi cab driver was talking back to him. And we're all in the back because he was in the front seat and we were all in the back seat. And I'm like, what are you saying? And he's like, oh, I'm asking him this. And he's like, what is he? And they were having this little conversation going on, and I was stunned. And he's like, he's got really good Chinese. They were very impressed. So, but it's been a while since we've spoken any Chinese, huh? But we've been to China twice.
You know, you talked about Autism Tree, you talked about the global travel, and it seems like as a mom, you are taking this journey with your son. As a parent, for you, what that's like to travel with your son on this life's journey. And secondly, two things that's become clear to me. One is love never dies. And unfortunately, it seems that ignorance doesn't die either. And so, what are some of the ignorance that is out there that you have to contend with in respect to raising a child on the spectrum?
That's a good question.
That is a good question, yes. It depends, Alexis, where we are in the world, what that ignorance is. And because a lot of cultures say a lot of different things. So we've been to some places where they think you're cursed. Wow. And so you can't be seen. Families cannot take them out of their homes because then they'll be disgraced or shunned by the rest of their community. That's very common around the world. Or you've done something wrong, so you're being punished with a child with special needs. Or just because a child has special needs that are stupid and they can't think and they can't talk. Or
that's the way God made them.
But exactly, everybody's made somebody special for a purpose. And so that's why we go and say, this is why we go and do what we do. Even though sometimes it's really scary. I had to pray for months. There was many of us that got on the phone and prayed weekly for me to have courage to go to China. Because I thought, can we go on a plane that far? Can I go to a completely different country? The rules are very different. And the language is different. You know, everything was just different than what we're used to. Could we do it? And I was literally praying for courage, and sillily, because sometimes when I get nervous, I get goofy, and I just went, well, it's not like I'm being called to another country or God's going to call me to the deepest, darkest of Africa. And they're like, oh, you better be careful, careful what you say you don't want to go do. And 2 months later, I get a phone call from my sweet mom in Montana saying, you need to go to Africa. We have a friend who wants to open a special needs school and she needs you and you need to go teach her. Wow. And I'm like, this is my sweet little mother who I adore her. She prays for my protection daily and she wants me to go to Africa. And so I'm like, that's halfway around the world and to Cape Town, South Africa. And I said, well, my husband will get me out of this. He'll never let me go to Africa by myself. And no, he's like, no, you need to go. You've been called, you need to go. So here I'm praying for courage to go to China and I'm sent to Africa. And I'm so glad I went. I have such,
I'm glad I didn't go because Craig was there and he grinds his teeth and I don't want.
Just like his brother. Yeah. Joel has a lot of sounds from different people that hurt his ears and
bully my thoughts.
Bully your thoughts. Yeah. But the family that we met down there at Semenyene, their family was so similar to ours. And here she was opening an adult center for disabilities because they didn't have anything. And we had 4 students that we started with. And now I think we're like at 30 something. And we've opened a group home in Cape Town and it's full. We have 10 adults that are 15 and up, I think, that now have a home that's safe and secure and the school and the center, and we never known, but then to go to China, and it was just so exciting that we not only got to go once, we got to go twice. And I just couldn't have been more prouder of him. He's just an amazing traveler. The hardest thing, but it is for anybody, is maybe a baby crying next to him, because you can't get away from that with the sound. But that's really the only thing that makes it hard for traveling is a baby crying. Other than that, he's amazing. But it's giving that opportunity of let's have a practice. And so we work with Autism Tree and JetBlue with our Blue Horizons team that we try once a year of going through the airport. We have scavenger hunts. Joel helped make the maps. They made a video, 10 Steps to Happy Flying. Angela Neve wrote the music to it. Vincent is our spokesperson on it. And the international airport, TSA Cares, and JetBlue, we work with all of them and help practice so the kids can go through the airport. So it's familiar, it's not scary anymore. And that's been an amazing program. We love that team of people. Brian there at JetBlue and all of them are amazing. So call them at the airport. So that's just one of a ton of programs, but it's that exposure of going out and practicing. Not being afraid of somebody coming and saying something stupid, because somebody's going to come and say something stupid and hurtful, and you just got to plug along and just go, they just don't know better.
Let me ask you, is that a lack of information? Is that they don't know? Is it, what makes people, because information, the idea of the internet, it's the information highway. And if you have a little thing in your hand called an iPhone, you've got access to information beyond your capacity to retain it. Why are people still in 2020 still making these kinds of remarks? Maybe I'm asking you to sit in their shoes and you can't because you might be too angry. I know I would be. But
sometimes I have been. Sometimes I've been hurt, left in tears on a puddle on the floor. Felt like I've had, a knife in my gut of somebody saying, I don't want my kids around your kids because your kids are different, and literally have separated from being around us. That's their loss, unfortunately. And I think maybe it's generational. Maybe it's a chain that needs to be broken generationally because children follow what they've been taught. And as Joel talks on the 10 steps to being a friend, you want to pull out the book?
Yeah.
10 steps to being a friend. Number 10 is keep trying to be a friend. Some people just don't know how to be a friend. And we realized when Joel was being bullied in school, and I met this kid that was bullying him really, really bad. And I said, you know what? I bet he's got it really rough at home.
Yeah.
And I bet, it's kind of like the dad yells at mom yells at the kid yells at the younger kid, the little kid kicks the dog. The little kid gets in trouble now because he's kicked the dog, right? Not thinking of where has this all come down to.
That model behavior.
And so I know our cat's sitting here outside the window, you know, waving.
Oh.
So when I realized that this kid was, you know what, I think he's having a hard time at home, and unfortunately Joel was his target. But when Joel got up, Joel was valedictorian of a class of 10.
So 2009.
2009 when you graduated. And he gave a speech and shared about this, about how the bullying hurt him. A couple of the students came back up and apologized that they didn't realize what they were doing, and they made a shift. And I was just so glad that we just like, you know what, we're praying for these kids. We're still going to be nice. It still hurts. It's still hard, but the teachers at the school were protective and did the best that they could, you know, but you know, kids, they're going to be sneaky and want to come around the corner and whistle at you or whatever it is, it's your trigger. So
yeah, and now there's cyberbullying too. You know, I know in just the month that we've been in quarantine, that's become an issue in our house of you know, these kids being online day and night, and and you think it just is going to go away, but it even exists in the virtual world. Joel, I know your mom was sharing yesterday, because we got on for a little bit just to connect, and the first time you went and spoke, and you shared your book, I believe there was a young girl who was really moved and came up to you, if I remember correctly. I know I have a family with special needs, and I know that it is challenging. There's so much that goes into having a family and members with special needs. And there is bullying, and people don't understand, and they make comments and, oh, what's wrong with this or that? And can you tell us when, and maybe Sandi, you can chime in too, when you first read your book at a school and there was a little girl, I believe she was in kindergarten, was it?
her brother was in kindergarten.
Oh, okay.
The little girl that was in 6th grade that got up at the Q&A.
Yeah.
What did she say?
I don't remember. That was a good question.
You want me to share?
Yes.
Okay. She got up and shared that after Joel had given a speech and he does a Q&A, she said, she stands up and says, I want everybody to know, I've never told you before, but I have a brother in kindergarten who has autism. And I've never told anybody because I was embarrassed. And she says, but now I see Joel and he's really cool, and I want everybody to know I have a brother with autism. And I was weeping in the back, because to me that was a huge paradigm shift of a child that maybe had Joel never been there, another autism speaker, maybe she never would have gotten to that point. Right. I don't know, but
And I think it goes back to what you were asking, right? Like, why is there still ignorance in this time? And I think a lot of it comes down to exposure. And like you were saying, you're bringing up the generations. You mentioned when he was diagnosed, he was one of, was it 1,500? I don't remember what the stats were back then. Yeah. And now, you know, people are much more exposed and familiar. Things aren't swept under the rug like they used to be. So I think, can you speak to that a little bit, Sandi? What it was like? Because when you and Joel, when you found out about the diagnosis, there were no resources. You were saying it was pre-internet.
Yeah, it was very lonely because you couldn't. I mean, now at least you can get on Facebook, right? We love Facebook. That's, oh, look, you're up at 2 a.m. too. Hi, how are you doing? You know, can't sleep. Full moon. Our kids are up all night. And there's a lot of sleepless nights for families with kids on the spectrum. And it's really hard. It can be very, very lonely, very isolating. And because often friends and family don't understand and what you're going through. And it was really hard, but I am very blessed that I have some really amazing friends. I just couldn't be, God's just blessed me with really amazing people that I could call and cry with and rejoice with. And, you know, you might think it's funny when they're, 10 years old and they learn how to drink out of a sippy drink, his older brother, it's just like, yay, well, my friends get that, other people don't get that. They're like, what do you mean he's 10 and can't drink out of a sippy cup? So we have different things that we celebrate, but no, I'm very thankful. I've been blessed with a lot of special moms and special moms that don't have special needs kids, you know, have special people like Amanda who came and celebrated that special day with us in Japan. And
yeah, I wanted to pull it up. So, you know, you were talking about different cultures and acceptance, and we were so fortunate because Leo, my son's dream was to go to Japan, and we got that in right before he's, you know, turning the corner and doesn't want to hang out with mom. And it just so happened that the last, I know, the last day in Japan coincided. I think we were at the neuroscience conference at the Stanford Consortium for Regenerative Medicine because ATPF was doing their annual neuroscience conference where Joel is an artist and usually a speaker as well. And that's when we put it together that we would be in Japan on the same day. And not only that Joel was going to be there for an international art exhibition. So I will pull that up and maybe we can talk about that serendipitous trip that we had.
that was pretty special, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was awesome. And so maybe Joel, you can tell us how you ended up in Japan, what the trip was about.
Julianne Johnson recommended it. She was my art mentor up in Beverly Hills.
So he had to submit art like any other artist, and his art was accepted.
And so I think, and bear with me as I try and host and produce and put the pictures up, but I think the first one we're looking at is, it might be you and Leo.
It is.
So what's going on the screen? Yeah, so here is Joel, here you are with Leo when you were showing him your two pieces that went up at the art exhibition. And then I will also share, I think I've got the three of you. Let's see.
It was an amazing museum. It was absolutely gorgeous, and it was beautifully curated by Julianne at USA and
Katsu Shimen from
Katsu
Japan.
Shimen from Japan, and Chinese artists, and I think that we had like 23 countries from around the world where there were artists.
It was an absolutely amazing experience.
It was.
I know we got to bond because Sandi, you know, when they were presenting Joel with his award, there was recognition for all of the artists, but the woman, the curator who put the whole exhibition together, she just really, really loves Joel, and the time she took to just speak about him was so so touching. And I remember you and I looked and we just started bawling. Proud mom moment.
Yes. So. Yeah, it was so special to share it with you all. Yeah.
What did you think about Japan? How were you, Joel, what was your favorite part about Japan, actually?
Well, the buildings and the famous landmarks.
Okay, I'm gonna see
How about the food? Did you like the food at all?
Yes.
I think I've got one of us in front of a famous landmark.
Oh goodness, the Tokyo Tower.
So one of the things we did was we didn't tell, Joel and Sandi and I kept it a surprise, and we didn't tell Leo that they were even in Tokyo. And then I said, come on, Leo, we're gonna go for a walk. And so we were outside of this one giant Buddhist temple and ran into Joel and Sandi. So it was such a fun surprise.
Really cool. It was cold though, wasn't it? It was very cold when we were there.
Cold that day. Most definitely.
But who else do we know in Japan?
Adi.
We'll tell about who Adi is.
Adi was my mentor for my Autism Tree Project Foundation University of San Diego football mentor program. Until he was accepted to the Fujitsu Frontiers in Japan back in 2013.
That's exciting. It sounds like you had a good time there. It sounds like you really enjoyed that.
Yes. We even got to go there to see him play.
Yeah, they went to the big stadium, right? To see Adi play.
We've been there twice.
And I think one of the things that was really awesome when you talk
usually see him through the, what do you call it?
The app on the phone?
The app, yes.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they talk on the phone. Yeah.
So the other thing that was exciting, and we're talking about special needs, and we found it to be very serendipitous, was when we were in Tokyo, Leo and I happened to stay at the house of a gentleman who sponsors an artist with Down syndrome. And so we were able to get the gentleman, Mr. Takashima, to go see Joel's artwork. And so unfortunately it's on hold right now, but there was talks of Joel and the young woman artist doing a collaboration back in Kyoto in September of 2020. So we hope that does come around again, depending on,
We hope
maybe
so.
it's going to be in 2021 when the borders open up. But it's beautiful to see that in Japan as well, people are starting to talk about special needs and inclusion. I am going to jump back because I know we're nearing the hour, to show a little bit more of the artwork.
While we're doing that, Sandi, can you talk to parents who have children with autism? How do they cope during this time of COVID-19? What would you advise them to do if you had to give them some tips on how to raise a child during this time?
Yeah, I think they're a group of forgotten people because, as everybody's home, with their kids, our kids that are home with special needs now, they're not, the parents aren't getting respite. They're having their children 24/7. And now the child's routine is thrown off and don't understand why. And, then they're home and don't understand why. And, it's a lot of my friends are having a really hard time. And so if I can ask their friends and family to love on them extra in any way they can, if it's dropping something, food and toys off at their door, or, just some ways to help them refresh, because it's, and then of course people still want you to do school and your IEP goals and all these things. And, and for myself, we've even just going, this is a time of rest. It's okay to just take rest. It's okay to just play with your child. It's okay. We talk about being in our sphere. Sometimes Joel gets out ahead of me when we walk. And so instead of always going, slow down, come back, we came up with a word, we say sphere. I want you in my sphere. And a lot of times parents don't realize that you can just get in your child's sphere and just hang there. It doesn't mean that you have to be doing anything. It just means maybe your child's sitting there and stemming and doing something. Do that with them and just be there next to them. And that's just a beautiful thing, a lot that we don't take time to just do that. And
I think oftentimes it feels like you're not doing anything. And I would really want you to talk about that a little bit more, please, if you can, because I think parents have good intention and they want to feel like they're doing something that's empirically and then just sitting there or being in the sphere, I really love that word, doesn't feel like doing something. So can you talk about the value of that?
I was one that always was probably doing way too much. Now that I look back, 33 years and going, I was a crazy mom. We did everything, PT, OT, speech, horseback riding, vision therapy, art, music therapy, auditory training, anything that you could do times 2, because I had not 1 but 2 kids. So that's the gray hair. But now I'm going, that was insane. We just needed a lot more playtime. We need time. And I'm afraid people, when we get out of this, are going to go, I wish I could just be back and just be still and take this time to heal and to just let your body restore, because as moms, especially because moms are more typically the caretakers, but there's a lot of amazing dads out there too, that stress, and we all know how bad stress is on our bodies, can cause just a lot of internal garbage going off. There's a lot of us moms that have had cancer. There's a lot of us that have had breast cancer and all different types of things. And not because we don't love our kids, it's just another stressor of trying to get it all done and do the, it's like the working mom of going, I need to work, I need to take care of my kid and take care of my house and take care of my family. And we're not meant to do it all. We're meant to do the best that we can do on any given day. Some days it's a lot. I got a lot of energy. There's a lot of stuff I can do. And some days I can barely get out of bed. And this is the best I can give today. And that's all you have to give. And so it's okay if you don't get your schoolwork done. You know, if your teacher has a problem, tell them to call me. I want people to just feel that this is a blessing in disguise of a bond when you can, is because it's rough. It's really rough on a lot of my friends right now. And
with all the challenges, with all the difficulties, with all the loneliness, with everything it takes to have a son or a child with autism, and I'm not romanticizing this, but I just really want to ask you, what has it taught you about being a human being on planet?
Wow.
When I had OCD when I was 9, I think that Jared's sounds would torture me.
Yeah. So it was hard for you, wasn't it? It was hard for all of us. Yeah. Now I forgot your question. Don't you dare.
That was lovely. I think you just got a kiss on the top of the head. I think that was the answer to my question. But how was it? How was having this?
Oh, yeah.
By the way, it was a beautiful moment that your son just kissed you on the top of the.
You know, and I love the fact that my boys have never gone through that phase. I know Amanda had talked about that because, there's like, I don't want to be near my mom. You know,
there's the Leo in Japan, and then there's the Leo now.
Yeah, and this too shall pass, Amanda. It will pass, and the phase will go through.
I hate to leave, but I have to get the cat inside.
If you want to bring the cat in, we'd love to see the cat.
Yeah,
also.
go get the kitty.
How does it inform you about living on the planet? What has it informed you? What has it offered you?
Well, I think it's been a blessing of just knowing that we can have this journey that's been this gift. I think I told you before, when my kids were born, I didn't want to go and hide them under a rock. Because back then people were like, don't show anybody that you have kids with special needs, you know, because people are going to think bad of you or whatever. And I'm like, no, I'm going to open my hands and I'm going to say, Lord, you can use my kids in any way that you have called to use them. And I don't know what that's going to be. I had no idea when Joel was 2 and couldn't talk that we would be traveling around the world. I mean, that would have blown. I'm like, no way, you know. It didn't happen with Jared. Jared is still learning even at 33, but he still needs 100% care for all his stuff. It's a different journey for him, but I love them both just as much. And we look for the celebrations in the small things. Joel's hysterically funny, and he's incredibly deep. I remember once the moon was coming up and he saw the moon and I said, Joel, who made the moon? And he said, God made the moon. It's God's flashlight and he's watching over us. And I'm like, I mean, this was like a 10 years old, you know? And so to stop and just, like I said, just be thankful and be open for what that journey is going to be. And I think that goes for any of our children, and to not be the detriment. There's things I have done well and there's things I have done bad as a mom, but I can say the one thing I did well was that of stepping back. And when Joel said, I want to go to China, instead of going, you can't go to China. Are you kidding? What are you thinking? And thankfully I kept my mouth shut about it and went, let's just pray about it and see what happens. Wow. And then when we get this phone call in the middle of nowhere going, Joel, are you the guy who wants to go to China? And he's like, yes, I'm coming. And I'm like, where are we going? You know? So I don't want us to be in the way of what our kids have called to do. And if you see that they have a inkling towards something, foster it. You know, they like us. I love that with Amanda and Leo at the art gallery in Japan. She went and she got him a pad of paper and a pencil, and he was sitting there and he was drawing her in this amazing museum and gave him this opportunity. And he was around all these artists. She could have shushed him out going, well, this is an adult thing or whatever, but he was around amazing global artists who just poured into him. And he just was like blossoming and bubbling over. And so I think it's giving those opportunities, and like these foundations of Autism Tree does that, and Miracle 139 International does that, to take Joel and go to Peru We went to Machu Picchu. My son's been on Machu Picchu, you know, and it's just, you know, all these wonders of the world that he used to watch on a map when he was little, because he was always very global. He learned the flags of the world very early, and he learned the continents and things you could memorize. And I want to go here. 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 He wants to go around the world in 80 days. If someone would like to help us with that and take him, I would be more than appreciative. Maybe one of his football brothers.
Be careful what you ask for. Be careful what you
really.
Exactly. Well, you know, ever since the whole China thing happened, now he's just like, hey, I'm going to put it out there and let's see what happens, Mom, you know? And I'm like, I just hang on for the ride. And I'm blessed that I have the time that I can do that and the support. And it's not just me. We have many people that work with Joel. I mean, I'm really big on apprenticing and mentors. The Divine Path program, Adam Lancer is his video mentor. So all the amazing videos that you see that Joel's done with Joel and Reading the Word, and on Joel's website, a lot of them, Adam has helped him. And we met Adam on our Peru trip. So had we not gone to Peru, we wouldn't have met Adam. And then Adam was like, oh, I could put my gift with videography and autism together and teach young people on the spectrum. Now he's doing that. It's amazing. He's just a rock star. There's just...
I know that faith, I know we're about to wrap up, but I know faith plays a big role in your life and in Joel's life. And can you just give us a little bit of that, the role of faith in supporting you in this, in this journey with your son?
Oh, definitely. Well, the Lord is my strength. He's my strength and my shield and my fortress, and a given. You know, it's our faith is not a religion. It's a relationship with the Lord Jesus Christ. And he's told me he will never leave me. And on those darkest days, I think my darkest day was Jared was in and out of the hospital with heart issues. Joel broke his leg and I had cancer. And I went, I can't do anymore, you know? And, but I knew the Lord said he would never leave me, and he never did. He's carried me through a lot of it, you know, and that support of knowing that we're not doing this alone. And the Lord brings us amazing people to walk alongside us and support us and pray over us. And we just couldn't be more blessed of the people that are in our lives. Yeah.
Thank you for sharing Joel with us.
Oh, thank you for having us. I'm sorry, he's still out looking for the cat.
Is he doing
coming back? Come here, buddy.
I'm just, you know, I love you and I love Joel. And since the moment you guys came into Bella Vista and all the work that we've been doing with Autism Tree, like, he blows me away. There, you're back. Come back. I'm singing your praises, Joel, and it's been amazing to see everything you've done. And we thought, oh, okay, he's a painter, but to learn of all these different roles again, an artist, an author, you know. And you said you were in maybe high school when you were creating those characters for your book, and an international speaker, an ambassador, and also a philanthropist. I think we didn't really get to touch on that. Right. You know, you sell your paintings, but your paintings there's a cause behind it, and you're always giving back, and that just speaks volumes of who you are as a person. I just want to thank you for your time, your energy. It was so fun to always see you up at Bella Vista, but also to hang out with you in Japan. And we will all be following your journey. And I hope we get to go back to Japan next year for the collaboration. But let's just all stay connected. And and I forgot. This was a piece that Joel gave to me, because he did an art show. He did live painting during our 5-year anniversary party.
That's right.
So we always talk about when we're done with this lockdown, we'll have a huge party, and I'm sure Joel will have you there.
It doesn't have to be at Bella Vista or anywhere. It has to be.
Bella Vista's the best cooks, aren't they? They always make you delicious gluten-free food when we come in. So
where would you have it, Joel?
I would have it up in Oceanside.
Okay.
No.
Deal. Oh, I think you're talking
maybe at Ruby's Diner.
There you go.
Well, what's at Ruby's Diner? What's over there?
It's on the pier. in Oceanside,
It's out
Peter.
on the
Oh yeah. Oh man, I haven't been there in a long time. At any rate, Joel, we love you. Thank you, Sandi, for giving us your time. Thank you for being such an amazing family and for being advocates of inclusion. I know that there's lots of families out there that are going through a tough time right now in quarantine with their no support, no resources during this lockdown. So thank you for sharing your time with us. And we will be sharing the links to your website so people can follow your journey, see all of your artwork, and know that if they get a piece, that there's also a portion that's going to a great cause. So thank you guys.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
It was a
Thank you very much.
pleasure.
Love
Bye.
you so much. Okay.
Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Night.